Quarr Abbey was first founded by the 4th Lord of the Isle of Wight, Baldwin de Redvers. He buried himself at the abbey in 1155. Well, I suppose not buried himself literally, you get the point. Many years later, the second daughter of King Edward IV was also buried at the abbey, Cicely of York, and her remains are still supposedly on the grounds of the old abbey ruins to this day. She was also the godmother of Henry VIII. Yes, that Henry VIII, who destroyed most places of worship in the UK for the sole purpose of getting divorces, just to find a woman to give him an heir. Ironically, when he did have an heir, that child later died at the age of 15 anyway, so the damage wrought for his legacy was pretty pointless in the grand scheme of things. The name Quarr comes from the word quarry, because the town it was built in was historically a mining town. The original abbey was built with stone from the local quarry, which is now around 1,000 years old. See the twin video which this one was released with, right here, if you want to learn more about the quarry and other historical landmarks in the UK built with stone from the same local quarry. In 1912, a new abbey was built just up the road from the old ruins. The original architect who designed and oversaw the construction of the new abbey returned to the monastery shortly before his death. It is said that when he returned, he looked up to admire the tallest tower of the church and proclaimed it his finest creation. The abbey is inhabited by a group of currently 9 Benedictine monks who maintain the abbey to this day. The new abbey is a popular tourist destination and receive hundreds of visitors every day. The abbey grounds have a visitor centre, a cafe, a shop which sells produce from the grounds, as well as keep livestock such as pigs, cows, sheep and horses, all of which are very popular with families and children. And lastly, the abbey has its own orchard as well, where they grow apples and other things. Next up, we're going to look at the new abbey, which was constructed in 1912 and ordained in 1914. Following that, I'm going to show you the ruins of the old abbey, which are almost a millennium old. The monks kindly gave me permission to explore the ruins unsupervised one morning, which was really fun and interesting. And finally, Father Gregory will talk to us a little bit about the lifestyle of a monk and what they do at the abbey. So I'm now with Father Gregory, and he has very kindly offered to show us around the sanctuary and some other parts of the abbey. So yeah, we're going to go and have a look around. It is absolutely incredible. Like, oh, they even have an organ up there. I've never been on this side of the I've never been on this side of the barrier.
Yeah. Yes, the architect wanted the light to sing as it comes into the church.
Yes.
The statue was cast in Boiron in Germany in 1912 and was a gift of the German monks to the French monks who were here. The German monks knew all about persecution because they were persecuted by Bismarck. French monks were here in exile because of the trouble with the Freemasons in France in 1900. So during the 2 world wars, the French and the English community had the presence of the German Madonna signifying the fraternity of Christian communities regardless of conflict. The architecture of a church speaks about Christianity because the form of the church is a cross. So you've got the sanctuary, double arches, change of level, then you've got the choir, and then you've got another change of level and the public part of the church, the nave. And from the sanctuary we have 2 chapels representing the arms of Christ. So we have the church representing the body of Christ. The tabernacle, which contains the Blessed Sacrament, which is the sacrament given to the church, the bread and wine, which he gave to his disciples at the Last Supper, saying, "This is my body, this is my blood." The risen Christ was present because Jesus rose from the dead, but represented in death because the body and the blood are separated, the bread and the wine are in sacrifice. The martyrs go before us, those slain for the Christian faith, who are more numerous now than even in the first centuries of Christianity.
So today I'm in the ruins of Quarr Abbey. The monks at the abbey have been kind enough to give me free rein over the ruins this morning, so I can basically do what I like and get all the footage that I like. And Father Gregory is going to come down and join me in about an hour to give us some more information about the ruins of the abbey itself. You know, something I always found really interesting that you can see from the walkway is this tree. I have absolutely no idea why this tree is like the shape that it is, but I just find it really fascinating. It's actually a lovely area. I think this probably has to be my favourite place from the ruins. It's just a nice sheltered area. You've got some wonderful oak trees overhead. You've got a nice bit of the wall that is just about still standing from the ruins. And you've got this really interesting tree, which now that I look at it, the tree is growing around what looks like it was once part of the wall. That's amazing. But I guess this is part of the ruins that have just collapsed. But it shows you how vast the actual area of the abbey is. The ruins are all the way over here. Like, the entire building itself is absolutely humongous. Like, what's left of the abbey is really only probably about a quarter of how big the actual abbey itself was. The ruins themselves are quite beautiful. Like, there's not a whole lot left of them, but the architecture is really nice. You've got Gothic archways. I know you can see over there, they have the kitchen, which still has lots of cupboards and things like that still built into the stone. You can see where the shelves were hung. This is like probably the room that's the most intact. There's not quite a roof, but there's lots of walls. And I'm told this was a fire storage room, I think, like a wood storage, coal storage, wood. I guess it'd be wood back then, because it's so long ago. And I guess that explains, like, this bit here is probably where they would have put all of the wood and stuff like that. And it's pretty cool because this is one of the few bits of the ruins that are still kind of, like, you can see where the room is, which is really cool. And there's an open gate. Now, this is an area that I've never been to or seen before, which is really cool. You can see all of the walls around the area. This whole thing was part of the abbey. You can see the perimeter walls going all the way around, and they're still standing, which is really, really, really cool. It's crazy. Even the way the ivy grows up the walls is kind of nice, like the pattern it makes, it goes up the walls. It's amazing that all of this has lasted for 1,000 years. 1,000 years, and still most of the walls are still standing, which is something about the quality of the stone and the architecture itself. But it's actually a wonderful location. And if you look at my quarry video about the Binstead Quarry and you see this massive hole in the ground, all of this stone, every single piece of stone in this wall and of the ruins itself, every single stone comes from that quarry. And that just shows you, and you can see how much stone there is just around the abbey itself. The Tower of London was built from this stone. Winchester Cathedral was built from this stone. You can really see just how much stone was actually taken from this quarry. It's a huge amount. All of this was just built from a giant hole in the middle of the woods in my hometown. I think that's nice. Wow. I have no idea what the time is, but I think Father Gregory is going to get here somewhen. There are sheep in the field? I swear these sheep were not here when I came in. So this was really unexpected, and I'm sure they're friendly, but I'm not going to say hello because I don't want to get eaten by some angry sheep. After I've been exploring the ruins for about an hour or so, Father Gregory came down to meet me at the ruins and to talk a little bit about his knowledge of the ruins and the lifestyle of the ancient monks from the past centuries who lived in the original building.
I'm just going to say, in medieval times, the water, the monks had complete control over the water down the valley, and there were leaks either side of the valley, that's streams carrying the water, so that to ensure that in no circumstances would the monastery be flooded. But now all the water comes down the bottom of the valley, and the land drainage and the roads and so on mean that there's very fast runoff, and all this is threatening the fabric of the old walls. And from there to here fell down 50 yards practically, fell down in the big storm in '87. There were three fires in the monastery, one in the infirmary, one in the kitchen, and one in the warming room. And this is the warming room here.
Oh, this semicircle bit was the fireplace.
Yeah, well, that's why there's clay, rather than
and a lot of this wall would all be the wall of that room originally, maybe. Makes you wonder sort of why some walls are still here and others are completely gone. Like, why did some walls survive and some disappeared?
The perimeter walls survived because the king wanted a defensive place on the island, because he was at war with the French and he was building forts.
That makes sense.
This is quite nice stonework.
It's a Gothic archway.
Yeah.
That's why it's pointed and not rounded.
We're in the kitchen now.
Ah.
And that's the hatch. So if you got a penny for every pound of beans that have been through that hatch, you'd be rich.
Pretty rich over 800 years.
Well,
And this would be another fireplace or something?
That's a cupboard.
Oh, it's a cupboard.
Yeah, you can see where the wooden shelving went.
Oh, they would literally put the shelving on the ridge of...
Yeah.
That's... wow.
It's properly built, you say.
Yeah, wow. It could have been an oven too. Yeah, obviously you know it's a cupboard, but like you could have thought it was an oven by the...
Yeah. But Cistercian monks like cupboards. Was the dormitory of the brothers, where the brothers, a lot of the lay brothers, would have been out on the granges, detached farms, during the week, and then for feast days and Sundays they would have come back, and then they would have dossed down in the upper story, first floor of this, and underneath was the storage area.
That's where all the food was kept.
Yeah, the beans and the corn. Good. Right.
Brilliant.
I better get back and clean the toilets next.
After we finished at the ruins of the old abbey, we returned to the new abbey and went to the gardens. Father Gregory gave us an explanation of what the purpose of a monk is and what life as a monk is like at the abbey.
Your question really is what monks are for. Monks are here to pray. And we pray for the world. We pray especially at the moment for the victims of COVID and all who are suffering. We pray for the peace of the world. We provide a place where people can find peace as well. Every day we have hundreds of visitors at the moment, and they all find Quarr is a great refuge of peace. And peace comes to us above all through forgiveness, that we learn to forgive one another and to find peace in the family and in the community through forgiveness. We monks are led to follow the gospel. We're called by Christ, and the basic essential work of a monk is worship. Focus his heart and mind on God. There are 7 services each day. The centre of all our worship is the daily Mass. So if I just run through the daily services, that will give the shape of the day to you. We start off at 5:30 with a service of psalms. Then there's time for breakfast and perhaps a bit of reading. Then we have morning prayer at 7 o'clock. Then 7:30 till 9 o'clock we have time for reading, prayerful reading of the Bible and the writings of the fathers of the church, those people who studied the Bible and drew out its meaning. And at 9 o'clock we have our Mass, which is of supreme importance to us. Then 10 o'clock till 1 o'clock is our time for work. We have our guest house, the guest master has the guests to look after. The procurator has his work to do, looking after the business of the monastery. At the moment we're picking apples because we're getting into the autumn and the fruits season comes along, and so on and so forth. Then at 1 o'clock we have the midday service, and then we go on to lunch, which is our main meal. And after lunch we have half an hour together in recreation, relaxing and chatting and perhaps going for a walk in our woods. 2:30 we have next short service, which takes about 10 minutes, and then we have work until tea time at 4:30 when we have tea together, unless it's a day of silence. And then 5 o'clock evening prayer, and then 7 o'clock is supper time, and then 8:30, 8 o'clock rather, now we have Compline, which is night prayer, and I go straight to bed after that. And if I hear 9 o'clock strike, I know I've got bad insomnia.
After Father Gregory told us about his life as a monk, he went to change before we took a walk through the orchard to pick some plums and apples and to talk more. The apples were actually delicious, and I did get to try a few, and he was kind enough to even give me half a dozen to take home, which my grandpa later turned into a pie. Oh, there's some big apples at the top. Wowee. Oh, we've got a couple. So what do you do with most of your fruits? Do you just sort of eat them between you?
Yeah, it's mostly dessert actually.
Yeah, that's nice. Nice and fresh. I suppose you can always, over the months that they're ripening, you've probably got a good 2 to 3 months worth of fruit you can eat just through the year when it's fresh in the tree.
Yeah, it's longer than that actually. There were, what's it called? in June, you see. That was for you.
Oh, really? I might take this one. Am I going to squash it in my bag? That's the question. Am I going to squash it?
Yes, well,
Probably, it's true.
don't use it enjoyment.
Yeah. I thought that's something we're meant to resist immediate pleasure. This one's quite a lot like the ones from the golf course, it's bigger.
It's a bit low on flavour, isn't it?
Maybe a tiny bit. Not as much flavour as the ones from earlier, but maybe it's just a variety. I quite like them because they're really nice and juicy and sweet still, but it's the sweetness is kind of the only main flavour. I love plums. I really like plums. Oh, delicious.
They're sweet.
Very sweet.
There you are, something we have to try.
Ah, thank you very much. They're pink. Very, very colourful. Oh wow, these have a lot of flavour actually.
I'd rather you didn't put any footage here of me eating.
No, don't worry. Myself eating's okay, but I think these ones I don't know, it's really weird because they're a mixture of dry and sweet when normally you expect them to be dry or sweet, not kind of like a mixture. No, they're really good, delicious. Nothing better than free food, that's my advice in life. With the Abbey now being over a century old, it was identified by the World Monuments Fund as one of the top 100 endangered historical sites in the entire world. And while the Abbey was lucky enough a number of years ago to receive a £2 million grant to go towards the maintenance of the building, as well as expand its tourism and revenue generating capabilities, more work needs to be done. That being said, any charitable donations to the Abbey are hugely appreciated, and I've put a link in the description to both the Abbey website as well as a direct donation link for any of you who are generous enough to contribute. Finally, thank you so much to the monks of the Abbey and Father Gregory especially, not only in helping me bring this video to life, but also for his personal support off the camera, and all of the delicious plums and apples he was kind enough to give me during my visit, which were fantastic by the way. While now I'm lucky to get 100 views per video, should I be lucky enough to grow my channel one day, and perhaps make a tangible amount of money from it, I want to make a pledge that any ad revenue generated from this specific video will be donated to the Abbey, should the day ever arise that I'm actually going to make any money from it. Lastly, this is my 4th video upload to the channel. Despite my low quality camera, I've worked really hard to advance my video quality and make a noticeable improvement for each new video that I upload. I'm very happy that you've actually made it to the end of the video, and I really hope you enjoyed it and learned something interesting. The goal of my videos are to bring together a bit of history, education, and entertainment in one nice package. Hopefully my future videos will have a similar format to this one, and if you think I've achieved that goal, then please leave a like. Or alternatively, leave a comment saying what you think could be improved in future videos. Thanks again for watching guys, and I'll see you in the next one.